can be possible if you have a very good process. Good often means automated. Once people are really, really engaged and encouraged, they're gonna then change environment.
Successful. Can I say that? Is that the right way?
Hopefully successfully.
Is that the right way to describe it?
Escalating or collecting problems in those big organizations. Another challenge is that we actually overproduce those problems, because you can have the best strategy, you can be the best leader, but if you don't engage, if you don't actually show people what that change brings, why are we doing this? Many organizations, they fail because there is lack of engagement.
Hello everyone. Today our guest is Gould from Amazon. Hello Anna.
Hi everyone.
You are based in Dubai, which is a tremendous city with a lot of opportunities and very fashion city, I would say, because many people want to live there, I believe. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do in Dubai, what is your background?
No problem. Thank you, Maciej. Hi, everyone. And first of all, thank you for having me here today. It's wonderful that I can talk to Polish audience, but not only, hopefully, as we speak in English now. So I've been in Dubai since 2014-15. My first job was in banking sector in Mashreq. So at that time, it was very uncommon here in this region to have process engineering, Lean Six Sigma experts. Hence, I got hired by one of the biggest banks here in UAE, Mashreq Bank. And then obviously my career started quite rapidly, because this region, as we know, is growing, innovating so fast. So that's what I have been doing here for the last 10 years, currently with Amazon, with global projects. So not only in this region, but worldwide. My educational background is mathematics. I'm a master of math, as well as production engineering, so an engineer. Some history with the PhD researching project as well, not unfortunately yet being accomplished because of my private life, mother of 2 kids. So you can imagine it's been challenging, but hopefully one day I will accomplish that. So that's in a nutshell. Obviously I can tell more, but I think we can go straight to our interesting conversation.
Sure. Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm very excited about our interview, and I think it will bring, I hope so, it will bring some value to our audience. I would say that. Let's start with the first question. As you mentioned, you work for many companies, big banks, corporations, and you are a specialist, as I believe, in making the change in the organization successful. Can I say that? Is that the right way?
Hopefully successfully.
Is that the right way to describe it? Basically, how it works with the big organizations, with corporations nowadays, in terms of driving the change, driving innovation. Because I believe it's a very, very hard task to do.
Yes, of course. So I think change is difficult anyways, anywhere, even in our private life. Whatever we want to change, obviously human beings is like, oh no, I don't want to change. There's that resistance, right?
Yes.
So imagine the organizational life, companies, businesses. Obviously, people are not so attached perhaps to organizations as to others areas in their life. So that change is, I would say, double difficult because of that lack of emotional attachment. Actually, perhaps sometimes it's even good, but once people are really, really engaged and encouraged, they're gonna then change environment. So we hear that very popular word, transformation. So we call big changes transformations this day in any industries. So organizations are trying to go from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. Like let's say you want to be a very fit person, right? And you want to kind of lose weight, be more, you want to increase your BMI index, etc., etc. The same is with organizations. Mostly they have defined key indicators how to measure that change toward better revenue, to be more innovative, better for our customers, and they decide to put themselves on a journey.
Okay.
That journey depends on the leaders, obviously. It can be a fast track, it can be a very agile change. These days, it's very popular. In the past, I would say decade ago, 2 decades ago, it was very much waterfall approach, big projects, especially when implementing technologies. Companies used to do a very long project with a very long planning, then long execution. That's not the case anymore.
Okay.
Organizations, they have to be much faster. We don't have time for long planning. We have to streamline communication. We have to streamline the way we prototype our service products, hence those agile teams. So that's very common. Also, focus on processes, focus on scalability, right? If the business wants to grow, they have to have a very good blueprint to just put it across, whether it's America, Europe, Middle East. So that requires a very good standard, repetitive operations. That, again, you can imagine can be possible if you have a very good process. Good often means automated. So whereas the space for the human error, human beings, is as less as possible. So that's why machines, that's why artificial intelligence, data-driven processes is the way to run the business. So that hence organizations very often want to automate their processes and become more independent from human errors. Please navigate me. Do we want to go into some specific area in our conversation, or we continue at the very high level?
I would like to just to ask, as we talk about the change, and you mentioned processes, automation, all these big factors. How would you describe 3 main factors, or maybe few factors, that make the change successful? Can we find these factors? The things that we make well, that will result in a change being delivered successfully.
That was actually my PhD project back in 2012-14 in a banking sector. I was actually researching and doing a data-driven. I ask myself that questions. What are the key success factors of big changes? That time, very popular Lean Six Sigma in banking sector. Doesn't need to be that way, that methodology, obviously.
Yes.
But it turned out, and it's not only throughout that set of data I was gathering, but also generally my qualitative outcome from organizations cross-industrial, as well as from my network. What I'm hearing, what I'm seeing is that the key aspect is the ownership of the change. So if there is no ownership, so whether it's a CFO, CEO, COO, or group of leaders, especially middle level management, is critical. Secondly, obviously, once we own the change, it has to be measured, has to be part of strategy. We need to have very strong objectives, indicators. Change fail because we don't measure. We don't know what is happening from point A, B, C to Z, right? And then people get frustrated, and we actually don't know what we change and how we change. And eventually, once we have that very clear ownership, clear strategy, measurement system around this, engagement, people engagements. If we don't involve actually everyone to a big change, then it won't happen. Because you can have the best strategy, you can be the best leader, but if you don't engage, if you don't actually show people what that change brings, why are we doing this? Because organizations is obviously it's people.
Yes.
So many organizations, they fail because there is lack of engagement. And I'm not talking even about big transformational
Yes.
projects when we want to, let's say, implement ERP, big system. We want to change. We want to implement new products suddenly, because that's the way we want to now drive our business. I'm talking about day-to-day improvements, because that's what I wanted to talk to you also about. I would like to distinguish between two types of changes. The first change is the big one, when we want to really transition organizations from point A to point Z.
Yes.
And the second one is that very incremental change, the small little changes, small improvements, which often companies think we're gonna innovate if we're gonna suddenly automate something, or we're gonna have artificial intelligence. But that doesn't work like that. I mean, we have so many little processes, little tasks which require that change and automation. We don't need to suddenly have a new big system. That's what many organizations they do. There's like, oh, our systems are crap, let's implement the new one. But then there is lack of understanding that actually the waste and the problem sit somewhere else. So two type of changes: the big ones, but also the continuously the constant change, which is the daily improvements. And I would say that second one is even more difficult, because
Yes.
how to make the first one is, yes, we've got
Yes.
investment, we've got money, and we're gonna drive that big project program with the amazing name. Perhaps we're gonna do the competition and someone will win the award for the best title of that transformation program. But it's more difficult for leaders as well to encourage the daily transfer. We even don't call them transformations, we call them daily improvements.
Okay.
So hence, in organizations, perhaps you've seen this as well, there are many, let's say, boxes for improvements. Let's encourage everyone to raise a hand and find out some amazing innovation. But again, it's not about that one big innovation. It's
Yes.
about, like, look at you, look at your Excel spreadsheet, how many times you click the same repeat, right?
Yes.
This is
Yes. Yes.
always like the very inefficient way of doing daily job. So that's where I think, and the reason also, if we go really to the root cause, right? Because
Yeah.
we started from what are the key aspects of failing the big changes. But also the very, very root cause is, especially in those incremental small changes, that we don't have leaders connected with employees. Leaders, they don't understand actually how operations work, how this process works, what that employee is doing on a daily basis. So in our Lean Six Sigma world, like in lean thinking philosophy, we call this Gemba Walk. Maybe you've heard
Yes.
about
Yes.
that.
Yes. I heard.
Yeah, Gemba is the place. Yeah, so Gemba is the place where the real value exists. That's from Japanese, from Toyota company yet.
Yes.
So we call this, let's do the Gemba walk. So as leader, let's go to Gemba, where the real process exists. Customer is there, the value is added. Let's say, let me give you an example. So in a hospital, where is Gemba? Where patient is,
Yes.
right? So it can be a waiting room, it can be a theater where actually the surgery is happening, it can be a doctor office where he's or she's examining patients.
Yeah.
So if we could just go there and observe what is happening as leaders, we could spot so many inefficiencies. For example, long waiting time of patients.
Yes.
Wow, frustrating, right? And we can obviously improve that. Patients, they don't need to wait. If we go to the surgical office, I mean the theater. So I'm not sure if you're aware that in the past, I don't know how many years ago, but the way how, for example, the first operations on an open heart were happening, they were so the surgeon was actually constantly not even operating, but
Okay.
also swapping the tools, going for cotton or something. So the surgeon was spending so much time on additional activities instead of actually operating the patient. So there was a story where someone was observing him during that, trying to improve the ratio of number of deaths after those operations. So they've spotted that, oh, you actually spend more time not touching the patients rather than being involved in that process. So after that observation, a new role has been introduced to
Okay.
that process, which is even in English, let's say the person who is actually not the nurse, but the person who is assisting
Assistant.
and
Okay.
doing all the assistant of surgery, surgeon assistant, right? I know there's a certain name for that, but I
Okay.
don't remember. Apologies, everyone from the medical industry.
Background.
Yes, I don't want to be an ignorant, obviously, but I know there's a name, there's a special function for that. So coming back to the last reason is just because leaders, they are not there where they
Yes.
should be. They're in the conference rooms, at the meetings,
Yes,
and
yes.
very far from actually where the business is happening.
Yes. This is very true. I must say, and there is a lot of work to do, and a lot of maybe not necessary effort, because sometimes it can be, as you say, just to go around to see the operations, to see what is happening, how we work, what we do. That gives us much more information than tens of reports
Big
and meetings.
time.
And
Yes. And actually, I want to say, don't even do we call this people gonna paint the grass to be green, right?
yes,
If the CEO suddenly says, oh, I'm visiting this site, I'm coming here and there, people gonna prepare everything, and it's just better. That's why Gemba Walk, the beauty of Gemba Walk is that it's not planned, is a casual way of not even walking around the operations and processes, etc., and observing is and saying hi and talking, but it's actually observing. It's actually sitting next to that, again, coming back to hospital, someone, let's say even the CEO of the hospital will sit next to the receptionist, or in manufacturing, the managing director will go to the floor and watch those engineers, how this line production is happening. Or I don't know, at your work, your
yes,
leader who is mentoring you, your mentor will actually watch your video and see what is happening before or after, like how you editing, how you do this podcast, right?
yes,
End
yes,
to
yes,
end.
yes.
And leaders, they and what do you think? Why leaders don't do this?
Maybe because they are too busy with other stuff that is not necessarily improving efficiency, not necessarily having impact on the customer, but as you mentioned before, all the back office, operational stuff that not really matters in terms of revenue, in terms of value, and I think that is what is happening. And maybe also because they believe that they have a structure in the organization, like directors, managers, and they expect them to do the job, which is not necessary. They might have different observations and different conclusions, right? This
Plus
is my
one,
opinion.
exactly. Yeah, I agree. I see it actually. I think your opinion is actually very factual. So yeah, they just are too busy, and they think they know the process.
Yes,
That's the thing. Every time I do some projects with leaders, they say, I know how it works. So what we do is master black belt. I'm helping to map the process, but there is a very critical step within mapping the process. Eventually, we walk the process.
yes,
So I grab those leaders and we go to the Gemba, and the process, the step they told me,
yeah,
is actually, for example, not happening or happening differently. Or there are 3 more steps they didn't even know about of their existence, etc., etc. So it's just because, yes, perhaps most of the case in many organizations, leaders, they used to be, who are they? They used to be the best experts, the best operators. That's why they got promoted. So they remember that process when they were doing that process. And
yes,
they were doing this amazingly, right?
yes,
But processes change because there is not enough control. Environment changes, everything. But they forgot that actually that's where they should be. And they think that the process works that way. And also some leaders are actually, I met also the group of people who are afraid, just afraid of going there because they're gonna be bombarded with, you know, enormous amount of problems as well, right? Because there is no system of gathering problems, evaluating them throughout systemic, etc., etc. That's another big conversations we can have here.
But I think it's much more easier. If I'm wrong, just correct me. But I think it's much more easier for big organizations to have the systems for the solving problems than for the small organizations, let's say, because
Correct.
It's lack of knowledge, lack of experience, lack of know-how in the team, for example. So I think that might be a challenge for small organizations as it is for big ones.
I agree. But at the same time, once we have a system of problems, like, let's say, escalating or collecting problems in those big organizations, another challenge is that we actually overproduce those problems. So yes, we have an amazing process of gathering those problems, and then, but as usual, we people tend to overproduce right? So what I see in many organizations, those great processes, they have backlogs of unsolved problems. And obviously, unsolved problem is also a big problem. So that goes back, and it's okay. And I think because we live in such a changeable environment everywhere, we are triggered everywhere constantly. The same is in our workplaces. So we have many problems, but then the problem is, my mentor used to say, the problem is lack of problem, but that's like the biggest one. If the organizations actually, they don't see problems. But if we already have many of those problems, the thing is how to prioritize them, how to understand which problem ties into our key strategic objective the most, because the rest could be only a symptoms of the main one, right? And that's what the organizations, efficient organizations like Amazon, they have a very good methodology behind the scenes on how to prioritize, how to then scale that process of prioritization and focus on the right problems. Although they have plenty of backlogs, but it's a healthy backlog.
Okay. This is very important what you said, and I think if the organization have the ability to find this the core problem, I would say, and define it, because as you mentioned, it's really hard to make the right choices and focus on the right thing, because we might think we work on the something that is really critical, but might not be necessarily critical, and I think that's the big risk in the problem solving issues that we mentioned.